Podcasting from a roving studio somewhere on the highways and byways of America, these are the tales of two intrepid adventurers seeking fortune and fabulosity in a hallway on wheels. This is the Adventures in a Hallway podcast, your 15-minute cure for the travel bug, featuring the motorhoming escapades of the Daniels duo. Now, here are your hosts, Mike and Elisabeth Daniels.
Hi, I'm Elisabeth.
And I'm Mike. Welcome to our motorhome.
Oh, yes, this is the Adventures in a Hallway videocast, our first one. And we are videocasting to share the motorhoming escapades that we have been enjoying ever since we left Vegas and moved full-time into a motorhome on July 8th of last year.
That would have been 2013.
2013, yes. It's almost 8 months. Today is February 26th. On March 8th, 2014, it'll be exactly a year. It'll be exactly 8 months since we hit the road.
Yeah. Excuse me if I drink a lot of water. I've got a sore throat. So.
Oh, poor baby.
It's okay. I'll make you do all the talking.
I'll have to make him some blueberry green tea later. Anyway, thanks for joining us. Thanks for putting up with us as we make our way through our first video cast. So we're giving this a go and sharing a little bit of our motorhome with you. Eventually we'll share, more of it as we get it, fully decked out.
These are the recliners with the airplane clock.
Yes.
This is the area where we spend a lot of our time. We've got a fireplace on the other side of the camera, fake electronic, of course. It does put out heat, and of course the TV's over there.
Well, the interesting story about the propeller clock is that Mike is not only a motorhome enthusiast and a motorcycle enthusiast, but he's also a private pilot. So we do have a couple of airplane elements in the RV that we've managed to get situated in here. It's a little hard decorating-wise and weight-wise to have too many tchotchkes and things. Essentially, we're rolling down the road. It's like a moving earthquake, a rolling earthquake, people have described it as. We're living in a hallway on wheels, so sometimes we can't put out some of the tchotchkes and trinkets and decorating items that we'd like to use. So it forces our creative juices to start flowing, and we have to come up with ways of sharing what we love, having what we love around us that work with the motorhome.
Well, we've had fun redecorating it. It's an older home. We bought it. Like I said, we actually bought it last June, 2013. It's a 2000 Holiday Rambler, 300 horsepower Caterpillar diesel pusher with an Allison 6-speed transmission, 35 foot, Freightliner custom chassis.
You might be curious as to why we decided to move full-time into a motorhome. We're not retired. We made the decision based on Mike's work. He owns his own business. He's a technical trainer. And he travels the country going to Harley-Davidson dealerships and Harley-Davidson Motor Company in Milwaukee, Wisconsin to provide technical training. And pretty much since we started dating, he's been gone every week, home on the weekends. I didn't get to see him a lot. He was traveling all the time, staying in different hotels. It wasn't the glamorous lifestyle that it might seem to be. So we looked at various ways we could deal with that situation, and we decided that moving into a motorhome and traveling together was a great way to go, and we'd at least try it for a year and see how it went. And 8 months in, it's been really great overall.
Yeah, we've had a lot of fun, ups and downs. We are currently staying in Cedar Key, Florida, where we've got a little bit of time before the next gig, which is in Daytona Beach, Florida. And since we had, a week or so to kill, better to kill it down here than where we just were, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I do a lot of training for Harley-Davidson Motor Company at corporate headquarters up there in Juneau Avenue, Milwaukee. And we left Milwaukee, it was 26 degrees. And this past winter, the few times we've stayed in Milwaukee, it's been really cold. Being in a motorhome at a campground in Milwaukee when it's negative 15 outside is its own level of challenging. We learned a lot. We were really good at keeping this thing warm and keeping everything from freezing water-wise. It can be tough. We've learned a lot of lessons over the past winter.
Yeah, I have to give Mike a lot of props. One of the reasons I felt comfortable kind of giving it all up, giving up a stick house, giving up my, steady, reliable job to do this, was because Mike is very mechanical. He's been around cars his whole life. He likes to say that his dad never tossed him a ball, but he had him work around the car with him. So he knows cars, he knows motorcycles. Oh,
I hear Miko.
That's our rat terrier rescue.
Miko.
Miko, come join us, Miko.
Miko, come.
Come for your on-camera debut.
Come on. Get out of here. Jump over the mic cable. Don't knock the mic down. Jump up. There you go.
That is Miko,
This is
otherwise
Miko.
known as Meatloaf, our rat terrier rescue. We've had him, what? Well, we got him just before we left Vegas, actually. So we've had him about 9 months or so. This is Sadie. She's also a rescue. She's a Boston Terrier, and we're pretty sure she was in a puppy mill.
She's a psycho terrier.
She's our psychotic dog, yes. But she's so darn cute. You know, we love her very much. Anyway, we've had her almost 2 years. In May, it'll be 2 years. So these are our traveling companions. We also had Charlie with us for most of our time up until last month.
You'll be in the picture on the opening, which is our 6-month picture.
Yes,
that
that
I'll
was
use
our
in the opening of the video.
6-month anniversary. He was in that picture. Unfortunately, he was 23, been with me half my life before I even knew Mike. And he loved the motorhome, loved riding on the dash and looking out the window.
Really did.
But when we were in Tulsa back in January, he unfortunately developed a saddle thrombus, and we had to say goodbye to him. So he's with us in spirit, though. So we have now 2 pet babies instead of 3. But anyway,
Kids.
Yeah, our 4 kids, yeah. But we were talking about being in Milwaukee in the winter, and one of the things we knew approaching this adventure in our motorhome is that we were not going to be the typical snowbirds, typical full-timers. Because of the way Mike's work goes, his season is typically from October to, say, March, maybe May at the latest. So he's traveling to places in the cold weather normally. And we knew that we needed a well-insulated rig. We knew that we needed a rig that could hold up to a lot of mileage, because when you're traveling every other week, that's a lot of mileage to put on a vehicle. So that's one of the reasons we chose the Holiday Rambler Endeavor that we did. We went with an older, higher-end rig versus a newer, lower-end model, so that we could pay for it in full outright without having any payments, no debt, and at the same time so that we could have a high-quality vehicle that would withstand what we were going to have to put it through. And of course, we put it through the test this year because this is one of the coldest winters on record, you know, even in the normally warm places in the country.
Yes, and even with the dual-paned windows, we had to provide we had to go into cave mode and throw up our little foil insulation on all the windows, because when it's 15 below, it's cold.
Yes, yeah. And we had to supplement the propane furnace, or only because at the levels we were having to run the furnace to keep the rig warm, it was draining our propane reserves.
Yeah, the propane furnace did an amazing job of keeping it warm, but it was sucking some propane.
Yeah.
So when you plugged into a park and you're using their electricity as part of what you're paying the RV park to be there, it's cheaper to buy a nice electric heater. So besides our fireplace, which is behind the camera, you guys will see that someday, puts out some heat. We've got a little nice little box heater
yeah.
that's on wheels, and it puts out a ton of heat as well. And that's basically how we've kept it warm. And of course, we heat both the water bays with a couple of both wet bays with a couple of small heaters also.
Yeah, Mike has been amazing through this process because he's so handy and so adaptable. As things came up, I mean, we had our hoses freeze. We had the pump. I mean, this is a 14-year-old rig. It's a 2000. So, you know, the parts are old, and if some of them haven't been replaced, they might be at the breaking point, particularly with some of the stresses we've been putting on it with this this type of full timing that we've been doing. So at one point we finally had the hoses insulated, but when we had to switch to pump water, when it actually froze in Milwaukee at the campground level, the pump had frozen and a piece had broken off because of that. So Mike replaced that, and you know, we've learned about heating the bays, and we've learned quite a bit. I really should say he's learned quite a bit. He shares a lot of it with me, but he's the one who's been actually doing it and out there in the frigid temperatures trying to adapt when we've suddenly had no water or had some sort of issue going on. So way to go, honey.
Thank you, honey.
I'm proud of you.
Yes, but it's been great. So in the past 8 months now, whatever, and actually 6 months if you want to go back a little bit, we've done things we never would have been able to do. So even with the ups and the downs, it's been amazing. So for the first time since we've got married, we've seen all 3 of my daughters in 1 year.
Yeah.
You know, and each one of them lives in a different state: Colorado, Iowa, and Tennessee.
Yeah.
We actually just a couple days ago had lunch with my eldest daughter, Stevie, in Tennessee.
Yeah.
We've seen both her parents. We took my mother's ashes, her remains, she passed away, and put her remains on top of my father's remains in Arlington National Cemetery. And we got to see cousins while we were in the D.C. area. My cousin Grant that I haven't seen in like, I don't know, who knows, 20 years
20
or
years
something.
or some crazy thing.
It's been a long time
Yeah.
since I've seen Grant. We were fairly close as youngsters, but he joined the Navy, and I've seen him like once since then. Of course, now he's retired from the Navy, so it's been a long time since I've seen him. Yeah.
Well, and so, I mean, I've seen a friend, my friend Lori in Rhode Island that I hadn't seen for 7 years. One of the coolest things we did was we hooked up with some old friends of Mike. He used to teach at Motorcycle Mechanics Institute, I think it is, MMI.
Yep.
And this guy was a great friend of his and his wife as well.
Brian and Donna, good
Brian
people.
and Donna, yep. And I hadn't met them, and we were able to see them. They had not seen each other since 1997.
A long time.
So we left Milwaukee. We got to have lunch with Stevie, passing through...
After we stopped at the Corvette Museum.
After we stopped at the Corvette Museum, yes. Roadside America is not something to be missed as you're driving along. That's one of the perks of this lifestyle. But anyway, so we were able to see a couple things, including the world's largest peanut, the National Corvette Museum. We had lunch with Stevie, and then we were able to continue on to Talladega, Alabama, and meet up with Brian and Donna and just catch up. And for me to meet them for the first time was great. These are all the kinds of things that we would never get to do. Now, that isn't to say that it's all been rosy. As I was mentioning, we've had, water issues and
Breakdowns.
freezing issues. We've had a couple breakdowns. And
Nothing serious, fortunately.
Yes, nothing serious. And again, with Mike's mechanical background, he's really handy. If he doesn't know how to fix something, he has a lot of people he can ask. And he really can take advantage of Googling and other kinds of research because he knows so much that if he needs to learn something else, it's a pretty fast, smooth process. So that was one of the things that gave me a comfort factor in doing this. I admire, people that go off and do it completely by themselves, that don't have any mechanical aptitude per se, and just tackle it on their own. That would be a big thing. Again, if you're doing it the way we are, where you're just encountering so many weather challenges and, driving in bad weather and that kind of thing. But also for me, Las Vegas was really my home, and I still consider it my home. I was very involved in the community, and I sat on a couple of nonprofit boards and was part of a writing community and had, my job that I'd been at for, several years. So leaving was difficult. My really good girlfriends, we call each other sisters, leaving all of those people that I'm close to and now I don't get to see very often has been difficult. But we were able to be back there for Christmas, and that was tremendously wonderful. Now with Facebook and Twitter and Skype, you can really keep in touch with people much more easily. And then, as I say, it's all balanced out with being able to see family, being able to reconnect with people that I don't know when we would have ever reconnected with them in the normal scheme of, a week's vacation here and there.
Well, I had a good community in Vegas too. I've been there for 17 years actually. So I learned to fly at, really great airport community. Still
North
a member,
Las Vegas Airport, woohoo!
Yeah, KBGT. Still a member of a flying club there, but that's like the only airplane I can fly. So that's one of the bigger downsides for me is I don't get to fly as much. And unfortunately, when we were in Vegas for Christmas, the two airplanes I could normally have access to fly were both down. The flying club Cessna was down for an annual, and the Tomahawk that I did my check ride in, Piper, was had a bad alternator, so it was offline too. So I didn't get to fly much at all. So since we moved into the motorhome, I've flown one time when we were in Virginia Beach, Virginia area, visiting my cousin. We borrowed a Cessna 172, thanks Grant, and we flew to North Carolina to first flight.
First flight.
First flight. So that was really cool. We got to fly down to Kitty Hawk, where the Wright brothers first flew powered flight at. And they've got a little airstrip there, and you can land in there as a pilot and tour the museum and see the monument and stuff. And that was a really, really cool flight, but it's the last time I flew in a while. Hopefully, I've tried to get checked out with a company called Open Airplane that has places you can fly all over the country once you get to check out. That seems like a good deal. But the last two times I've tried to do it, either weather or mechanical issues have stopped that, which, anything about flying, you just kind of get used to that.
Yep.
But while we're here in Florida, there's a couple open airplane sites we might try it again down here. Because if I get to check out one of these places, then any equivalent airplane at another open airplane site around the country, I can rent a plane at. So
Well, and
hopefully we get some flying in before, during, or after Sun and Fun.
Well, and that's the thing, that the aviation piece of it, although he hasn't been able to fly and we haven't been able to go up together, is still very much part of it. For instance, when we were in Austin, we were able to have a tweet up with one of our pilot friends that's on Twitter. Twitter has a really big pilot community, and we've actually been able to meet up with a lot of people that we've met virtually, that we're friends with online, and now we've been able to take that into an offline meeting. And so that was very cool. PJ flew from Houston to Austin, and we were able to meet up at this really cool restaurant called Seersucker. I did a blog post on it, adventuresinthehallway.com. Make sure you are following the blog. There's great pictures. There's all kinds of great stories about what we've been doing, including our first flight trip, including what it was like, saying goodbye to Evelyn at Arlington, that kind of thing. So make sure you check that out, adventuresinthehallway.com.
Done a great job with the blogging.
Thanks. But anyway, so we've still been able to do that. I mean, Sun and Fun is something that we've tried to do every year for the last few years. I do voiceover work, so I volunteered for the radio station there to do some sponsor ads before we get there, sponsor promos, and then also do interviews on site while we're there. It's an amazing experience. It's actually my favorite fly-in of the different ones that we've been to. We've been to Oshkosh, of course, and also Casa Grande.
Copper State.
Or Copper
we
State.
Actually flew,
in Casa
flew
Grande.
to Copper State, which is the coolest part about that
Yeah.
flying is we flew down there in an airplane.
We can fly there.
It was close enough to Las Vegas. So. But Sun and Fun's my favorite, too.
Sun and Fun is really cool because
we got a lot of good friends down
it's
there.
big enough that there's a lot of variety, but it's small enough that you feel like you can achieve everything. You can basically do what you want to do without being completely overwhelmed the way it is with Oshkosh. And it's a really close community. Working at the radio station has been amazing. And, going every year means we kind of get to reconnect with all those people. And now, with the motorhome, we're actually going to be able to camp there, so we're super excited about that.
Yeah, normally we stay in motels. I use my... The beautiful thing about flying all over the country like I did is we would take free travel miles and fly to Sun and Fun, and we'd take free hotel stays and rental cars, and that's how we do stuff like that. But now with our volunteer status at Sun and Fun, doing the volunteer work, we get a free camp spot. No electricity, no water or whatever, but that's okay. We can boondock with a generator and so forth. So we're going to camp at Camp Radioactive with our friends at Sun and Fun this year. We're really looking forward to that. It's going to be fun.
And, excuse me, we've been learning about boondocking. Boondocking, for those of you that don't know, is essentially dry camping. It's parking your rig without being attached to any services like electricity or water or sewer. And it can be somewhat challenging. You need to be able to manage your resources well. And there are people who never boondock, and there are people that, swear by boondocking because real, hardcore boondocking means you're out someplace where there's no one around you, and you can just fully take advantage of the natural environment around you or wherever you want to be. So some people are very hardcore boondockers, some other people like the campgrounds, they like the full services, they like the community that can develop at a campground. We have tended to be more campground people, primarily because Mike is working, so after a long day, first of all, he needs to be close to wherever the dealership is, or he needs to be close to the motor company if we're in Milwaukee. But also, after a long day, he doesn't want to necessarily not be able to take a shower or have to worry about some of those things when he needs to get up the next morning and
worry
go.
About the gray tank being too full to take a shower.
Train somebody.
So that's the thing about dry camping or boondocking is you got to be careful with how full you get the gray tank, careful with how full you get the black tank, careful with running your water or the fresh tank too low. We've got great house batteries, and as long as we don't run anything that spins real fast or that creates heat, our house batteries last a long time. We can watch TV on them, computers on them, everything's great, the internet's on them. But as soon as we turn on one of the electric heaters or the furnace, which has, even the propane furnace has a big fan to push it to the central air ducts, that pulls the current down pretty quick. So in the daytime, we use the generator to charge up the batteries, and then at night, our batteries will go all night long if we don't fire up a hairdryer or a coffee pot.
We don't get crazy. If I don't decide I've got to have the latest coiffure when I step outside.
Yeah, don't use the microwave. Right. We can use
like
the propane stove, but
like
use the
my
microwave.
steamed
We got to have
veggies.
it be plugged in or fire up the generator.
I like my steamed veggies.
I know you do. So
yeah, that's been something that we've been learning about is better ability to dry camp, that kind of thing, to boondock.
We haven't really done it too much, but we're kind of looking forward to doing it with these guys, so we've been practicing a little bit, getting ready.
Yeah, well,
it'll be nice because Larry and all those guys will be camping.
And it's also nice because the reality is that Mike's work, it does tend to be seasonal. And so now we're heading into the period where he doesn't necessarily have as many jobs booked, which means, like most people, I mean, all year round we need to watch the budget and be mindful of that, but particularly during his leaner season, we need to be careful with money. And diesel to get us to and from places roughly averages $1,000, just because of the places that we have to get to. I mean, going from Milwaukee to essentially Daytona, we're stopping at Cedar Key on the way.
Like we're never going to go just 100 miles.
Yeah.
You know, our next gigs, and we try to stagger them close, but our next gig always seems to be 700-800 miles away, 1,000 miles away.
Yeah. So we have to be mindful of that, and the more we can boondock as we go along, that's typically what we do. We don't usually stay at a campground when we're what I call commuting, when we're coming like from Milwaukee to here. And actually, we just had probably one of our best boondocking experiences just before we came to this campground today. We got here sooner than we thought. Our reservation was from today through next Wednesday here at Sunset Isle RV Park in Cedar Key. And we actually got to Cedar Key. We drove in here Monday night, and they were packed. So this has been a really popular spot, and they've been very full. So they didn't have any room for us. So we went about a half hour, back up the road and boondocked in the Chiefland, Florida Walmart parking lot. And it was great. First of all, they're very RV friendly there. They have a really nice parking lot that's very spacious, and it's in quite a large mall area. So not only was there a Walmart, a full-size Walmart, the one, with the groceries and everything, but there was a Mexican restaurant and a Chinese restaurant and a radio shack and a hair salon and a nail salon and a little, clothing boutique. So and there was Dunkin' Donuts. We really had it made where we could sit there. We were able to pull up alongside this grassy area that looked out over a tributary, a river, I don't know what that was, a little...
There was a watershed.
A watershed type of thing. But we had water views, boondocking, and we had a lawn to walk the bark babies, and we were able to pop into the Mexican restaurant, which surprisingly enough was quite good, Viejo Amigo in Chiefland.
Oh, you can eat tacos noon to 5.
Yes, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday?
Something
Tuesday,
like that.
Wednesday, Thursday, I don't know.
I missed them, but they sounded good.
I had this amazing grilled shrimp salad. Simple, just some lettuce, some diced tomatoes, some nice grilled shrimp. It was really, really good. And they brought, with the chips and salsa, they brought a carafe of salsa. So that was kind of cool. We'd never seen a salsa carafe before.
I actually have.
Oh, you have?
Yep.
I don't think you told me that at the time.
I didn't. Sorry.
Oh. You didn't want to burst my bubble, did you?
No, because you were pretty excited about
I get so excited about these things, and he just wants to
I forget where, but I've seen
protect that enjoyment for me. This is true love right here.
I do love you.
But anyway, so it was kind of a cool boondocking experience that we had, and we were right there at the Walmart. We've always been told, and we understand that appropriate Walmart parking etiquette is not to put your jacks out, not to put your slide out, certainly not to put out the awning and whip out the grill to make some burgers. We haven't seen, well, I guess we saw maybe one time we saw someone with a grill out there.
Yeah.
But almost without fail, we have seen other RVs parked there with the jacks down and the slide out.
Slides out.
So, I don't know what the deal is.
We never do that.
We don't do that.
Because we were told it's impolite, and the reality is we're okay with the slide in. We can still get around. Some RVs you can't get around very well with the slides are in, but that's one of the things we looked for when we bought this one. And we really should talk about a little bit is buying this. I guess that's just kind of a short story, though.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, we looked for RVs. We found to do this. I've been shopping for months and months. Window shopping.
We actually had discussed this idea about a year and a half maybe before we ultimately decided to do it. We talked about it, it was one of our options, and then we kind of let it lie. But from that period, Mike was starting to do research.
Yep, I've been researching quite a bit, and we opted for a higher-end rig that was a little older, because basically the budget we were at, we could have got a newer rig for the money we wanted to spend, but it wouldn't have been quite as high-end. And so instead we went for a higher-end, better quality appliances, better quality built, theoretically, rig. But it's a little older, so it's a 2000, like we said. Kind of what I found in my research is there's like weekend warrior rigs, and those are the ones that sleep like 7 or 8 people. And then there's rigs that are a little more, nobody really builds a full-time rig, but a little more, you know, live in it, use it more type of rig. We bought this rig, and brand new from the factory. It was designed to sleep like 2.5, maybe they probably claimed 4. It had a little couch where we're sitting at now that looked like it came out of the back of a 70s van, and it would fold out and maybe sleep a couple people, but it wasn't
hideously uncomfortable.
Yeah, so just the bed and that doesn't have a dinette that folds into a bed and all that crazy stuff. It's, it's more, it's got a table and chairs. And of course, we put the recliners in. We didn't like the couch and upgraded the floor and stuff. But anyway, so shopping around different dealers, different things like that. We finally ended up going to Tucson to look at a couple rigs, and this particular rig we found on Craigslist in Tucson, Arizona. We bought it from a very nice lady named Betty. Her husband had passed away a couple years ago, and her kids have been wanting her to sell it because she doesn't drive it that much anymore.
No, it took her a while to get to the point where she was comfortable letting it go, and it was important to her to sell it to people she felt good about.
Yeah, she told us she felt it was meant to be. She gave us a really good deal on it, and of course it took a day or so of doing it, because by the time we got through looking through, inspecting it, working it all out, it got kind of dark. She didn't want us test driving it at night, and I'd never driven a motorhome anyway.
Yeah. Neither of us had ever driven one. I had never stayed in one. Mike had stayed in one.
Yep, I've been in them before.
The Bonneville Salt Flats racing and that kind of thing. But
so we went back the next morning, and she had her neighbor, Phil. Was it Phil?
Well, Phil was her son.
Oh, Phil was her son.
Yeah,
she had a neighbor that had a bunch of different RVs, and he took us out driving in it and taught us how to drive it, and that was a lot of fun. And first of all, we did some tight turns and different things, and went out on the highway. It was pretty good.
Yeah, so we drove it back from Tucson. We flew into Phoenix, drove to Tucson to meet up with Betty.
Rental car.
Right,
rental car in Phoenix.
and check it out. And so we dropped off the rental car after we decided to buy it, that it was good, and we drove it from Tucson back to Vegas.
But even then, after all of that, so we're there the day before, we spend the night, the next morning we meet up with her. After all of that, she would let us take it. I should say that after all of this, including the fact we were trying to get insurance, and she didn't want us to drive it, rightfully so, until we had insurance on it. And so I was going back and forth with my insurance agent over the phone and trying to get him to email me confirmation, and I don't know what the hold up on that was, but we finally got insurance, and it took so long during the day for all of this stuff to transpire, and by the time we got out on the road, it was dark.
It was
we got north of Phoenix.
Yeah, it was like 3 o'clock, so there was no way we were probably going to make it back to Vegas, especially since we'd never driven.
So the first night we owned it, we spent the night in it in a campground in Wickiup, Arizona.
Here's the funny thing, and if you decide to do something like this, you'll find all kinds of little GPS quirks. Mike is a GPS fanatic. He's a gadget guy. He loves all kinds of technology, so he researches everything, and he's really good at finding apps and, software and all kinds of handy tools. But there are certain GPSs that are designed for truckers, designed for RVs. And he plugged in our route to take us back to Vegas.
And a GPS for RVs.
Yes, a GPS for RVs, which promptly, on our very first excursion driving this ginormous thing, promptly took us through downtown Tucson.
In rush hour with construction.
In rush hour with construction.
Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah. So we were
I was only a little nervous.
He did an amazing job, but it was a little bit nerve-wracking, let's just say. It was nerve-wracking to drive through downtown Tucson, these tiny streets in rush hour with construction on either side of us. We did make it out alive, and we ended up in Wickiup, where we decided to stop for our first night. And I forget what the name of that place was. I think it was...
It's on the blog.
It's on the blog. AdventuresInTheHallway.com. We've been in like 19 or 20 campgrounds now.
More than that at this point.
So yeah, so it's hard for us to remember all of them, but it is on the blog.
We've seen a lot of country in just a short amount of time because we're traveling for work. So.
But it was a very nice, very cute place in Wickiup, and it had all these metal sculptures out front and a little cafe and a little store, and we pulled in like at 9 o'clock at night, and we weren't quite sure, and it was the funniest thing because there's tinting on these windows, and Mike is new driving the rig. It's been kind of a hectic, exhausting experience to begin with. A lot of emotion, a lot of nerves going on. It's 9 o'clock at night. It's dark already. We're pulling into this campground. He can't see a thing out these tinted windows, so he's cursing up a storm.
I never curse.
And, opening the window and, just cursing about the tinting. And all of a sudden the gal runs out and she directs us to our spot, and she was very, very nice. So we managed to settle in. And of course we didn't really have anything. We weren't planning to sleep in it. So we didn't have anything on the bed, and it was kind of a strange experience. It was exciting, but at the same time, it didn't feel like ours. It felt very strange. For me, I couldn't even get to sleep. I felt very strange. Laying my head down in this home that had been somebody else's home, and now was ours, but didn't feel like ours.
It's been a steep learning curve. And we originally thought, well, we'll rent an RV and we'll spend a couple months or spend a week or something in it, and kind of learn the ropes and go to RV school. We had plans like that, and none of that stuff materialized. So we jumped in, and the forums have been very helpful, and the podcasts we've listened to have been very helpful. We met the RV Navigator guys before we bought our RV, Ken and Martha, and they were kind enough to let us tour their RV. They just happened to be in Vegas. So we had dinner with them, and we learned a lot from them. And then, of course, with John and Kathy, they're in the RV dream couple. They're really great. We listen to their podcast on a regular basis.
Comes out every Friday like clockwork.
Yeah, they're very, and of course, Ken and Martha's podcast comes out on the first of the month like clockwork. It's only monthly.
We've found the RV community to be much like the pilot community. People are very friendly, very helpful. John and Kathy have been very responsive. If you email them, I think we have a couple of their books, right?
We do.
They have books that they've put out. Ken and Martha, as we mentioned, they came into Vegas.
They've answered a lot of questions.
They've answered a lot of questions by email. We met them, we toured their rig, we had dinner with them, and just chatted about everything. Very, very nice people.
There's some good forums. I really like the IRV2 forum, and we went to our first, one of the things we've done since we moved in here on our way to places. We went to our very first RV rally, which was the IRV2 forum, our motorhome rally, RV rally. And we had a good time there. It was a lot of fun. It was in Iowa.
Amana Colonies, Iowa. Yeah, it was great. It was really, really great. I highly recommend an RV rally if you can swing it at any kind.
We're looking forward to the next one. We still got to kind of book that.
Yeah.
So we can pull it off. We're waiting for my schedule to finish panning out. But that's another story.
But the RV rally is nice. It's just nice to get a group of like-minded people together and have seminars. This one actually didn't have a lot of seminars. Some of them, from what I understand, have a lot more seminars and workshops and education. And I think again, not to draw too many parallels with the pilot community, but no matter how seasoned you are, it seems to me that there's always something you can learn. In our case, we've done a lot in a very short amount of time, and I think we've learned a lot, but clearly we're very new, so whatever else we could learn. That's why the podcasts are great. There are a ton of them out there on the blog. I have a resources page, so you can go and see what podcasts we listen to, what other blogs we read, what other information is out there. And it's just so helpful to learn about different places. For instance, Technomadia is a blog. They do a lot with internet connectivity, and they also do video as well, quite a lot of great video. And they were just here in Cedar Key, and that's part of the reason that we decided to come here. We were heading towards Daytona. We read about their experiences. They have a great post on RV parks here and kind of the pros and cons and things to do in the area. So when you're trying to decide whether it's buying the rig, whether it's where you want to go, whatever it might be, make sure that you Google and pull up those podcasts and blogs and forums and get on those and ask any questions, because everyone's really helpful and they've got all kinds of great information to share.
Yes, and on that subject, Elisabeth's done a great job on the blog about talking about the campgrounds we've been at, putting photos up. One of my gadgets is a quadcopter with a GoPro camera, so I do some overhead pictures of some of the campgrounds, and she takes a lot of great pictures of the campgrounds, great blogs. So there's information about different campgrounds you might find on our blog. And going forward, to this video we're doing, I used to do a lot of video, and I kind of got out of it. I'm getting back into it. So we're doing a lot of videos and reviews on the products we use. And something we've discovered is some products might be a great product when you hook it up and use it once or twice or 4 times a year, but because we move more than your typical full-timer, and we're disconnecting and reconnecting things, we found some products don't hold up as well little tricks to make other products work better. So we're going to start reviewing some of these products on the blog, and I'll try to do some video reviews on some of them. And so maybe you can learn something about RVing as well, and what products work and how to make them work proper the way you need them to.
I'm thinking maybe we should wrap up for now.
I'm thinking you're right. We've got a whole lot more to tell, but
it's a lot.
Come back for the next episode, and we'll get better with this. We're gonna, we'll get better.
But thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for watching. If you made it this far, great.
Exactly.
Thanks a lot.
More power to you. We're very chatty. We're very, very chatty. But thank you for joining us. We will be back with more. Be sure to check out adventuresinahallway.com. I'm Elizabeth.
I'm Mike.
And, well, as John and Kathy like to say, go RVing. We'll come up with something.
We'll come up with a tagline.
We'll come up with our own tagline.
Yeah, so email us your suggestions for taglines.
Yes. Oh, yes, we could really use that. We need suggestions for taglines.
What is it?
Go have an adventure.
me@adventuresinahallway.com.
Yes.
Is that the email?
me@adventuresinahallway.com. I think it's on the blog as well under About.
But yeah, you can just... whatever.
Anyway, thanks for stopping by adventuresinahallway.com, and we will be seeing you again soon.
See ya.
Thanks for venturing into the urban wilds with us. Until next time, join us for photos and more on our blog at adventuresinahallway.com.